I thought about, if you were here last week, I thought about surprising Pastor Arlene and saying I lost my voice and that she'd have to cover right now. But that probably wouldn't be a good surprise for my good friend. So in 1862, a songwriter by the name of Thomas Oliphant wrote a song that I think everybody in this room and watching online knows, the song Deck the Halls. Now, it was originally, you might not know this, it was originally a Christmas and New Year's song. And then it got changed to be only a Christmas song. And you know the first four lines of the song. It's on the screen. You know, deck the halls with boughs of folly, la, 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 you know the whole thing. And then it's the second four lines that I'm convinced that nobody in this room knows. Fill the mead cup, drain the barrel. Now, mead is fermented honey in water with spices and fruit. And the barrel is their version of the keg. So this song that Thomas Oliphant wrote in 1862 is basically saying, get sauced up this Christmas, right? So you can imagine my horror when I realized we named the sermon series after this song. But here's the deal, to take a deep breath. Your pastors are not advocating you get drunk this Christmas, all right? Instead, we're advocating that we spend these 4 weekends in front of Christmas getting ready for Christmas. Historically, these 4 weekends, these 4 Sundays in front of Christmas are called Advent. Now, Advent's not a word that you're going to find in your Bible. It's just not there. Advent is a Latin word, adventus, that means arrival or coming. It's the 40 days originally in the 3rd and 4th century. It was the 40 days where people were getting ready to be baptized on January 6th, Epiphany Day. Now, somewhere around the 6th century, some Christ followers decided to kind of back it up a little bit and make it 4 weekends or 4 weeks in front of Christmas as a time of preparation. And the truth is that we need to prepare for Christmas. We need to get ready for Christmas. In these next 4 weeks, we're going to try to get ready for Christmas. And here's the deal. All of us, every one of us, has a choice on how we're going to prepare for Christmas. So I thought about this a lot. What is it that gets in the way of me preparing spiritually for Christmas? And I got the answer. It's called Christmas. Isn't it true? Christmas gets in the way of preparing for Christmas. Okay, let me prove it. All of us either have a written or mental list of things we got to do before Christmas morning. Come on now, isn't that true? All of us have a list of things we got to do. Gift buying, home preparation, plane tickets, Christmas cards. It's the stuff that's got to get done before we get to Christmas. Now, does any of this stuff that we've got to get done, does it really help me prepare spiritually for Christmas? Well, Taylor Foley, our family pastor, when we were at the teaching team meeting, he threw out this question. Am I celebrating Christmas, or is Christmas celebrating me? I want to take it, kind of amp it up a little bit. Here's the way I put it. Are we victims of the Christmas madness or victors of the Christmas message? You see, we get to choose how we will get ready for Christmas. And what I'm advocating is not filling the mead cup and draining the barrel. What I'm advocating is that we step off this hamster wheel that we call the Christmas holiday, and we prepare ourselves spiritually for the Jesus birth holy day. We prepare ourselves. And to do this, I want us to kind of assess where we are on this very first day of December, this very first Sunday of Advent. And I want us to do a little self-examination. And I want us to answer this question. How am I spiritually preparing myself for Christmas? I'm not talking about gift buying, card writing, or the rest. How am I spiritually preparing myself for Christmas? And what I want to do is ask 2 more deeper probing questions to help us answer this question. The first is this. Am I preparing for Christmas as a passive observer? So the days leading up to Christmas, these now 24 days leading up to Christmas, we can back it up a few days and maybe think it started right. Let's just call it Thanksgiving. Ironically, a day when we thank God for his many blessings. And then we quickly forget about that and we join in on Black Tuesday, which has now creeped into Thursday. Okay, well, I won't go on that one. Black Friday, that's creeped into Thursday. And we buy stuff that we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. And I'm talking about mostly our family, right? Okay. So we get involved, and then we're waiting for tomorrow, because tomorrow's another holy day in Madison Avenue. It's called Cyber Monday. And then we've got these like 20 some odd days where we just gotta kind of endure till we get to Christmas. And for some of us, that's the way we get ready for Christmas. Kind of a passive observer. But here's the second way to consider. Am I preparing for Christmas as an active participant? I've told you this before. There are two words in the Greek language, the language of the New Testament, for the word time. There's chronos, which is just kind of like the passing of the seconds on my watch. Chronos, chronology. It's when, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday night, I took one of those small packets of popcorn and I stuck it in the microwave and I pressed 2 minutes and sat there wondering why it took 2 long minutes for my popcorn to actually pop. And for some of us, that's that kind of passive observer. We're just going to Christmas as passive observers, just waiting for the time to get to Christmas Day. And frankly, we get there and we're miserable. There's a second word for time. It's the word kairos time. And the word kairos time is pregnant time. It's time that's pregnant with possibility. For followers of Jesus, time is always pregnant, but we tend to default back to chronos time. When Joseph and Mary were on the donkey making their way from Nazareth up to Bethlehem, they were living literally pregnant kairos time. They were waiting for Jesus to be born at any moment. They didn't know when. And we can experience Christmas this year. 'Tis the season. Listen to me, Grace Church. 'Tis the season for surprises. 'Tis the season for miracles. 'Tis the season for God's breakthrough in your life. 'Tis the season for Jesus to be born afresh and anew in you and through you. 'Tis the season. But we have to live life with this chronos, or kairos time, anticipation. So to help us with this, I want us to prepare spiritually for Christmas well. And that's the question we're going to try to answer. How can I spiritually prepare for Christmas well? Circle that word well. And to do this, we're going to look at the ancient story of Jesus' birth. Now remember that in the 4 biographies in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that Matthew and Luke, Matthew tells the story of Jesus' birth from Joseph's perspective, Jesus' dad. Luke tells the story from Mary's perspective, Jesus' mom. And so we're going to look at the Luke story. And Mary was a teenager in Luke's story. Mary was a teenager, maybe 16, 17, 18 years of age. We don't know exactly how old or how young she was. And she had a relative named Elizabeth who was married to a guy named Zechariah. And we're going to look at their story. We think it will help us. Now, they were likely in their 50s or 60s, okay? So look at Luke 1, verses 5 through 7. When Herod was king of Judea, there was a Jewish priest named Zechariah. He was a member of the priestly order of Abijah, and his wife Elizabeth was also from the priestly line of Aaron. Zechariah and Elizabeth were, what's the word there? Righteous. Circle that word in your notes. Righteous in God's eyes, careful to obey all the Lord's commands and regulations. They had no children because Elizabeth was unable to conceive, and they were both very old. Now, what scares me about that line, they were both very old, is that scholars agree that this pastoral couple were Cheryl's and my age. Yeah, yeah. They were the old couple around here. And Zechariah, the old pastor, he was working in the temple in Jerusalem. He handled the holy thing. He was a worship leader, pastor of sort. And Luke tells us, the word I had you circle was that Zechariah and Elizabeth were righteous. Now, stay with me. Don't let that word wig you out. They were righteous. They weren't sinless. God's the only one who's sinless. Can I get a big yes on that? Yeah. You see, they were righteous. That meant that they were living their life for an audience of one. It meant that they were faithful. It meant that they had this deep desire to please God. And in the story that follows, Zechariah has this amazing encounter with God. And we learn through three things that he didn't do how we can prepare spiritually well this Advent season. Here they are. Number one, see the extraordinary in the ordinary. Say that with me. See the extraordinary in the ordinary. Now remember, Zechariah is a priest. Jews would travel from all over the world to Jerusalem, to the temple, to be led in worship by the priests, the Levites. There were 24 divisions of priests. Think of 24 teams. And each division would spend 1 week serving at the temple, and then they would be off for 23 weeks, and then they would serve another week. Now, within a division, one priest was chosen to go in to a sacred place and light the incense. Incense symbolized the prayers of God's people. And it was a high honor to be the priest to go into the holy place and light the incense. You could serve your entire life as a priest and never have that honor. And so the Bible tells us that Zechariah, literally by rolling dice, that's what lots is, he got chosen to be the priest to light the incense. And let's look at how the story goes, how Zechariah, after being chosen, let's consider it together. Let's read this, verses 8 through 13. Ready? Go. One day Zechariah was serving God in the temple, for his order was on duty that week. As was the custom of the priest, he was chosen by lot to enter the sanctuary of the Lord and burn incense. While the incense was being burned, a great crowd stood outside praying. While Zechariah was in the sanctuary, an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing to the right of the incense altar. Zechariah was shaken and overwhelmed with fear when he saw him. But the angel said, "Don't be afraid, Zechariah. God has heard your prayers." Now, little Bible lesson. Whenever a person in the Bible, Old or New Testament, has an encounter with an angel, the writer wants you to know that that person is literally having an encounter with God. The word angel in the Greek simply means messenger. These angels, Gabriel, this one by name, he was an emissary for God. To see the angel was to see God. So catch the irony. Zechariah, Pastor Zach, is a pastor in the temple. He's leading worship. He lights the incense. And then he becomes surprised when he meets God. Now, imagine the irony that there once was a people who would come to worship every week. And they would sing songs and say prayers and listen to the teaching of God and then be surprised that God shows up. Yeah. See, here's the point. We can't get judgy with old Zach here because we're just like him. We lose the extraordinariness of God in the ordinariness of what we do. We sing these songs, and they're just songs. We say our prayers, and they're just prayers. Oh, there's old George teaching again. And we miss the extraordinariness of God. I mean, he's shaken and overwhelmed when God actually meets him. And we don't just miss God in the hour and 5 minutes that we spend time in this space. We miss God in the ordinariness of our everyday lives. We miss God in the face of our spouse. We miss God in the face of our kids. We miss God in the simple blessings of our everyday life. Your life is filled with the extraordinary, but we miss it because we're just focused on the ordinary. So as a church in Charlotte, North Carolina that put together a humorous little video. A little video that kind of helps people kind of not miss the extraordinary and the ordinary. And thought I'd show it to you this morning. Turn your attention to the screen.
I'm alive! I'm alive!
Yeah?
Yeah! Oh, yeah! Hey, Christine! You're here too! I love you!
I know.
Dad, what's happening?
Honey, the power works! It's coming, it goes on and off whenever we want! We've got clean water! Oh, that's great, look at that! Ooh. I bet I know what this does! Bring down the glorious water! Shoes. Oh, what do we got here, guys? Food. I love food. What? A beef steak? You gonna have work? This is awesome. Look, listen here. Steve, the what?
Jack, be careful.
Oh, I have a car. This is great. Did you guys see this?
Yeah, you have a car.
A car!
And don't forget your coffee.
You're the best.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? Just a simple reminder. Just a simple reminder to see the extraordinary and the ordinariness of your life. And I think we'd be more spiritually ready for Christmas if we kind of live with that perspective. A second way that I think Zechariah can help us here is to release control. Say that with me. Release control. Now, this one's going to hurt. Because you remember last week when Pastor Wes, if you were here last week, Pastor Wes said that he's a nonconformist. He wants to do life my way. I was watching and I'm going like, that's all of us. We all want to do life our way. And the truth is, we're all control freaks. Now, some of you are passive-aggressive about your controlness, but you're still a control freak, all right? We don't want to release control of our life. And Zechariah in this story, he's struggling here, and he gets this visit from an angel with a message. And look at verse 13. It's on the screen. This is what the angel says to him. But the angel said, "Don't be afraid, Zechariah. God has heard your prayer. Your wife Elizabeth will give you a son, and you are to name him John." Now, they're in their 50s or 60s, and they know what their body can and cannot do. And you need to know that in the first century, there were two pressures on Zach and Elizabeth. Two pressures. One was personal, and some of you who've struggled with infertility know this one. It's just this deep desire to have a child. And they struggled with that decade after decade after decade. But there was also this external pressure, because in their understanding of things, life wasn't complete for you until you had a child, especially if you were of old Zach's job as a priest. You wanted a son to pass on your name. And so all of a sudden, the angel comes to him and he says, "Listen, I know that you have this personal desire and there's this cultural expectation. You've been praying. You've been praying for a long time." You have to imagine that as the 20s turn to the 30s, turns to the 40s, turns to the 50s, and into the 60s, it might have been a long time since they'd prayed for a child. When we got to this place in the teaching team, Pastor Taylor King, who's our pastor of Form and Send Ministries, she gave us this brilliant line. She says, "Prayers don't have a shelf life." In the economy of God, listen to me. In the economy of God, there is no expiration date on your prayers, and some of you came to church to hear that. That the God of the universe is saying, "I hear your prayers." Remember that this Jesus, whose birthday we are anticipating, this Jesus, when he grew up in the Sermon on the Mount, he said, knock and keep knocking, seek and keep seeking, ask and keep asking. He teaches us to be persistent in prayer. And so the angel goes on, and in the verses that follow, he gives Zechariah the details about the son that would be born to them in their old age, and that God would give them a boy, but not just any boy, John the Baptizer. The camel fur wearing, no wine drinking, spirit filled, locust and berry eating, repentance preaching, water baptizing son. That's who'd be given to him. And you would think he'd be happy. But look at verse 18. Zechariah said to the angel, how can I be sure this will happen? I'm an old man now, and my wife is also well along in years. Basically, he's saying, have you seen the old lady? Right? Zechariah is wondering, are you sure, God? Did God really tell you that, Gabriel? Maybe he was saying, hey, have any of y'all talked to my doctor and seen my testosterone levels as of late, right? Here's where I draw hope from this story. Luke tells me that Zechariah and Elizabeth were righteous. And yet they doubted in their prayer. They struggled in their prayer. And I don't know about you, that gives me some hope. That gives me some hope. And here's the deal. Stay with me on this one. Could it be that our desire for certainty, our desire for control when it comes to our prayers may be the greatest detriment to God's breakthrough in our life? Could it be that hiding right behind certainty in the bushes of our soul is this little control thing, and we want to control everything, including, stay with me on this, church, including how and when God answers our prayers. How and when God answers our prayers. And maybe what God wants to teach us in this story is that we serve a God who delights in surprising us when we least expect it. Because he's God and we're not. And he's not only God, he's good. And he invites us to trust him with simple childlike faith. So a bunch of years ago, as Cheryl and I entered into a grandparenthood, our daughter-in-law said, don't buy so much plastic junk that breaks and we throw away for the kids for Christmas. You might buy a few of those things, but instead, why don't you have some experiences with your grandkids? It's been some of the greatest wisdom Courtney's ever given us. And so almost every Christmas since, there's an envelope or a gift that has inside of it a little trip. It's going to be 2 days to a hotel on the beach, or a little trip to one of the theme parks in Disney, or just something special that we're going to spend time face to face with our grandkids. And here's what I've noticed. They've come to expect it, yes, but they don't know what's on the inside. They don't know how or when or where we're going, but they know that Grandpa and Lala are good. And that whatever's inside the envelope, whatever's inside the gift, is going to be good. And so we pray, we pray. But we release control. And we say, God, however and whenever. I think in this story of Zechariah, there's a third thing that he teaches us. And this one might hurt as much as the second one. It's welcome the silence. Say that with me. Welcome the silence. So how does God respond to Zechariah saying, how can you be sure this is going to happen? Well, look at verses 19 and 20. Read this with me. Ready? Go. Then the angel said, I am Gabriel. I stand in the very presence of God. It was he who sent me to you to bring you this good news. But now, since you didn't believe what I said, you will be silent and unable to speak until the child is born. For my words will certainly be fulfilled at the proper time. Now, many of us have a vision of angels, that they're these fat, cute little cherub deals that sit around the throne of God. But that's not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that angels are more like MMA fighters. Think of a heavyweight boxing champion. And so when Gabriel is standing in front of Zechariah, he's afraid, and he's afraid for a reason, because he's not sitting there with a cute little bow and arrow. He is questioning him. Gabriel is bowing up in front of the priest, and he's saying, "You questioning me?" The penalty, if you will, was that Zechariah would have to be silent. Now, I want you to catch the humor in all this. This is a preacher, and he can't talk. And some of you are praying right now that Gabe would come and visit me and tell me to shut up. I know. But stay with me. For years, I thought this was a punishment, and I was wrong. It's not a punishment. This was a gift. Because what God wanted to do in Zechariah, and he wants to do in you and me, is he wants to curate deeper levels of trust in God. And so God invites Zechariah into a season of silence. I've introduced you before to my best friend, Dale Locke. I'm so proud of him. He and I have been friends since seminary, more than 30 years. And he pastors Community of Hope Church over in West Palm Beach. I'm just going to brag on my best friend. It's the fastest growing United Methodist Church in America. And I love this guy like a brother. A few months ago, we all started getting worried because his voice started giving out. A visit to some doctors, many specialists, and we found out that there was a nodule on his vocal cords and that they had to take it out, and it could affect his speaking. And like me, he's a wordsmith. He's a pastor. So they did the surgery, and by the grace of God, it took care of it, except that he had to be silent for 3 weeks. So I asked him, I said, "Dale, what did God teach you?" Here's what he said. Number one, my wife thinks I talk too much, and so does the Lord. Number two, he said, God taught him when I was forced to be quiet. Listen to this. My gratitude spiked. My inner critic's voice went down, and the Lord's voice went up. My vision of what God still wants to do became more clear, and my self-doubt went down. Number three, the reality is I learned how loud and present my own voice is and how I need to create space to let God's voice become the more dominant one. And number four, in reality, we listen to ourselves too much. Can I get a yes on that? Yeah. You see, this silence to my friend Dale and to Zechariah was not a punishment, but a gift. And we live in a culture that loves noise. We love words. And because we're so addicted to words in noise, we miss out on the one who says, "Be still and know that I'm God." When Solomon was a wee bit depressed near the end of his life and a bit more cynical, he talked about how we ought to approach coming to worship. He wrote these thousands of years ago, but it might apply today. Look at Ecclesiastes 5:1-2. It's on the screen. As you enter the house of God, keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Don't be a fool who doesn't realize that mindless offerings to God are evil. And don't make rash promises to God, for He is in heaven and you are only here on earth. Read this last line with me. So let your words be few. So how about in these 4 weeks leading up to Christmas, we just shut up. We just get a little more quiet, less noise. Embrace the silence. Listen more for God. Listen more for the voice of God through other people. I love Christmas carols. And my favorite verse of my favorite Christmas carol, O Little Town of Bethlehem, is verse 3. How silently, the wondrous gift of Jesus is given. So God imparts to human hearts the blessings of His heaven. Check this out. No ear may hear His coming, but in this world of sin, where meek souls will receive Him still, the dear Christ enters in. Jesus came silently. He came in obscurity. He came to a nobody carpenter named Joseph and a teenage girl named Mary, and they weren't even married yet. Came to a nowhere place called Bethlehem. They were so obscure, it was so silent, there was no place for them. And so they went to a cave where Jesus was birthed among the animals. Jesus came in silence, and he still comes in quiet. So why don't we be quiet in these days leading up to Christmas? One last thing. Juju, come here, come help me. I've asked Julia, who's the daughter of our director of worship in the arts, Jen, who's homesick today. I've asked Julia. Welcome, Julia. She's come to help me. Come on. Julia, I got a little Christmas gift for you, a little early Christmas gift. This is what's called an Advent calendar, okay? And so there's 24 little windows on here. The 24th one is right in front of Mary and Jesus. And each day, starting today, you get to open one of these windows, and there's a little gift in it. And so I opened it for you, and here's the little gift. And I want you to open it for me. Open that gift for you. Tell me what it is. What do you think it is? What is it? Piece of chocolate, yeah. So there's 24 pieces of chocolate. Jen, I know you're watching. These are not for you. 24 pieces of chocolate. These are for you. Now, what's on the front of this? Mary and Joseph's baby Jesus. It's the nativity scene. And here's the deal, my friends. It's easy for us to spend these next 24 days only focused on the gifts, and we forget the gift. The gift is Jesus. That's what Advent's about. That's what Christmas is about. Remember, Grace Church, Christmas ain't your birthday. It's His. Let's stand for prayer. Here you go, Juju. Thanks. And so, Jesus, forgive us when in the rush we make Christmas about other things. We allow other things to elbow you out of your primacy, your centrality to this season. So let these 4 weeks, Lord, for us, be a time of spiritual preparation. Yes, we'll have gifts to buy, parties to go to. We'll have other Christmas festivities and things to be a part of. But let us not lose the powerful message in the madness. Let us focus our attention on you. Would you surprise us with the extraordinary and the ordinary? Would you remind us that you're a good God and that we can release control of even our prayers? And Lord, would you take us to seasons where we welcome silence in our life? Because we want to come to Bethlehem stable once more, ready for Jesus to be born afresh and anew in our lives. And this is our prayer in His name. Everybody agreeing said, amen. So I asked Casey if we could sing a song that the worship team taught us a few weeks ago that talks about enthroning Jesus as the King. That means making Him the leader of our life. And so it could be that you want to, right where you're seated, just say, Jesus, I enthrone you as the King of Christmas this year. Or you might want to make your way down here to the altar and do that. Sometimes our body posture helps us with our soul posture. So if you want to do that, you're invited to come. If you have any need in your life, the altar's open. Our prayer teams are here. They would love to pray with you. Just lift a hand. One of them will come. Let's sing this together.